Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. The product for this review could not have come at a better time. This little teardrop behind me has a solar power setup that works with a 12-volt lead acid deep cycle battery. Essentially, I've got a car battery or a trolling motor battery that stores the power that this little camper needs for when I go off grid. And unfortunately, I'm reaching the end of the life cycle of that battery. I have had that battery on a charger for about 2 days and it has only achieved about half charge. So I think it's about time to retire it. And absolutely fortuitously, I got contacted about trying out a product from a company called Goldenmate. What they have sent me is the Goldenmate Orion 1000. This is a 12-volt lithium smart battery. And I cannot wait to check this thing out and see if it's going to be a viable replacement for that deep cycle lead acid battery that's in there now. So let's take a look at this thing real quick and see exactly what this is all about. So while I'm unboxing this, let's talk a little bit about the difference between lithium batteries and lead acid batteries. Lithium batteries allegedly have a much longer life and use cycle than lead acid batteries. They don't leak acid, so they're a lot safer, and they tend to be a little more reliable. Now, while they may not be as robust as a lead acid battery, what you get essentially with these kind of batteries is a plastic case that's full of power cells and electronics. So you can't mistreat it too much. But this one here is supposed to be a little tougher than the ones that have been available in the past. So as we open it up, we've got a couple of communication cables. In the event that we want to hook it up to another battery, we've got terminal leads, and we've got our instruction book and warranty information, and we have our battery. Check this thing out. That has got to be the coolest looking battery I've ever seen. It may not work worth a dang, but it looks cool. It's very rugged looking, very durable feeling plastic shell. On the top, we have our screw-on post covers. On the front, we have our communication ports. We have covered screw holes so that you can access the interior of the battery. On the side, we've got the information about the battery itself. But what makes this battery stand out, other than the fact that it's got handles, which I absolutely love, because if you've got to carry something of this size around, it's nice to have something to grab onto. It doesn't make it any lighter, but it makes it easier to control. But what really makes this thing stand out is that it's a smart battery, and on top it has a touch screen that allows you to monitor how much power that battery has left. Out of the box, it's got 83% charge. Now, I will say that every video that I watch to research this battery, the battery always comes with 83%. In addition to the touchscreen on top of the battery also works through Bluetooth with an app. By using the app, as long as you're within Bluetooth range, you can tell how much power you're taking into the battery and how much power is going out. Now, one of the things that makes this style battery very different from lead acid batteries, especially when it comes to using it like with the solar power system like what I've got here, or as a trolling motor battery or something like that, with a lead acid battery, you can really only deplete it about 50% without risking damaging the cells. With the lithium batteries, you can drain them all the way out 100% and it's still going to come back to life once you put it on a charger. Now, this battery does tend to hold about a 1% charge, and mostly I think that's kind of a reserve so that you can access the battery through the app and through the touch screen. But for the most part, it's not going to hurt this battery if you run it completely down to zero. With all that being said, the thing that really matters is because these batteries tend to come in at about twice the price of a lead acid battery, is it going to work as a replacement for my lead acid, and is it going to perform as well or better? And honestly, if I'm going to pay that much more for a battery, I need more than bells and whistles. I need to know that it's going to do the job and it's going to do it better. Otherwise, you can just save your money, go out and buy another lead acid battery, throw it in there. A couple years from now, you can get rid of it. Now, this battery says it has a 10-year life expectancy, which means you're already saving 3 to 4 times the cost of that lead acid battery. So what I've got to do now is, because I've still got the old lead acid battery hooked up, I'm going to turn on everything that I've got in this camper, and I'm going to see how long it'll run before it shuts down. Then I'm going to take that battery out. I'm going to hook up the Goldenmate Orion 1000 where that battery came out of, and I'm going to see how long I can run all that same gear with the new battery. You can say that it's not a fair challenge, that I could just go out and get a new lead acid battery to test it against, but the fact is I'm at a point now of needing to replace it. So let's see what kind of performance I get out of the old battery, because if the new battery doesn't stand up at least to an old tired battery, then it seems kind of useless, doesn't it? So I'm going to fire up everything I've got. We're going to give this thing a test. Then we're going to come back around in a couple of days and see how this battery performs against the old one. See y'all in a couple of days. For the first round of testing, knowing that my battery was only holding 50%, I just wanted to see how long I could run some of the equipment in the teardrop on what was left of the battery. In total, I was able to run all of that equipment for about 18 hours, which is not too bad, but I mean, we're also running low voltage equipment. We're not really pulling a heavy load here. The fan is the biggest draw, and turning it all the way up to high adds to that load. So basically it just gave me an idea of just how long can I keep the air flowing in that camper and keep some lights on. So then I ran the same test, but I didn't really want to run it to where I just ran this battery down to nothing, because I was already starting with only 50% on the old battery anyway. So when I did the second round of testing, I also didn't have time to just let this thing go for days, because I kind of felt like it was going to do just that. So I ran it for 18 hours. We started at 83%. I ran the battery down to 53%. So if we were starting from 100, we basically would have used about 30% of the battery to do the same thing. So if you want to do the math and leave it in the comments below. I'm not really good at calculating all that as far as it starting at 83%, ending up at 53%, blah, 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 you know, whatever. But you can see that this battery is clearly going to run a lot longer than the other battery, especially given the fact that when you're using a lead acid battery, you're not supposed to run them past about 50%. Running them down to 40% is definitely as low as you want to go. The reason for that is when you discharge a lead acid battery to that level, it creates a side effect of scale buildup, which shortens the life of the battery. It diminishes its ability to take a charge and to run the way it's intended. Now, of course, one of the things that I needed to test was, once I ran this thing down a pretty good bit, was I going to be able to charge it back up using solar? So I pushed the camper out into the front yard, right there in the direct sunlight, to see if it would work. I wasn't sure if I was going to need any extra equipment or anything added to it in order to adapt it to the solar power system that I've got in the camper. And wouldn't you know it, my luck held out. It worked like a charm. It immediately started charging that battery back up and did exactly what I needed it to do. Now, one thing that I did find out, I have this old trickle charger that I've been using for my car batteries, motorcycle batteries, things like that for years. This thing's always done a good job for me, never failed. When I hooked it up to this thing, didn't work. Couldn't figure out what was going on. I could not get that battery to take a charge off of this. Like I said, it worked fine when we were testing it with solar, but when using a trickle charger, it just wasn't having it. So because I'm not an electronics nerd, I didn't know exactly what the problem was. So I reached out to the manufacturer to see what I could find out. What they told me was the trickle charger I was using didn't charge at the right voltage. I didn't even realize that was a thing. So I learned something in this process. I ended up having to buy another trickle charger, which was not a huge expense, but I needed to get one that would charge at the correct voltage. So I ended up buying a smart charger that can read the job and know how much voltage to apply. So once I hooked this thing up, once again, everything went off without a hitch. So the Goldenmate Orion 1000 works exactly the way I need it to work for this application. I know a lot of people are going to ask questions like, well, how long can you do this? Or how long does it take to do that? I don't have the answers to that. This company's been working with a lot of content creators to get the word out about this product. A lot of the people that are doing videos about this are taking these batteries apart, showing you how they work, showing you all the intricate little details and stuff. And I'm not going to do that. I don't want to damage a battery that I may not know how to put back together again, because I plan on using this thing. But I know now that it's going to do exactly what I need it to do. So let's talk about the pros and the cons. For the pros in this case, number one is the battery life. This battery should work up to 10 years. It's supposed to work exponentially longer than a lead acid battery, and with no real maintenance. Another pro is the weight. I could not believe how heavy that lead acid battery was when I went to take it out. I almost hurt myself getting it out of this thing. I can't imagine if I was using this in an application where it was portable, like if I was putting it in a boat to run a trolling motor, it wouldn't take much to make me not want to go. If I had to haul that battery out every time, put it in the boat, at the end of the day, take it out of the boat, and then put it back wherever it goes, it wouldn't take many times of doing that before I would lose interest. But this thing is so much lighter and so much easier to handle. And while that lead acid battery does have pull-up handles, they're rather flimsy and they're uncomfortable. The handles that are built into this thing, they provide excellent grip and a good positioning for lifting it. But even then, it's not all that heavy. So it's not a huge burden to have to move this thing. I think the biggest pro overall though with this is that it's a smart battery. I've got a readout on top of that thing, and I've got the app that all tell me how this battery is performing, how much power it's taking in, how much power it's sending out. The ability to look at any time and tell exactly what I'm working with, that is huge for me. There's no guesswork. I don't have to try to figure out how long I can run this thing, because as soon as I turn something on, this is telling me how long I'm going to be able to run it under that load. The fact that this works with all the gear I've got in here without having to do anything extra just really is exactly what I needed. The timing of this whole deal was amazing. The fact that they contacted me right about the time my old battery started to die, it's like it was meant to be. So let's talk about some cons. The first one obviously is going to be the price. This unit is about twice the cost of a lead acid battery. So if you're on a budget and you just need a battery to do the things you need a battery to do, then getting a lead acid battery may be the thing that you need to do. But understand that in a couple of years, you're going to have to replace it. This battery should be good for up to 10 years. So at some point, that starts to prorate in a way that it makes sense to spend the money now. The price on these lithium batteries is starting to come down severely. Compared to where it was just a couple of years ago, the pricing on these is so much better. Lead acid batteries are becoming extremely expensive lately. So the gap between what it costs to get a lead acid deep cycle battery and one of these lithium batteries is getting so much smaller. But I think that's the only real con to this. That higher price, the fact that you've got to ask yourself, am I in a position to spend that much more money now so that I can save some money down the line? That's a decision you got to make for yourself. Somebody once asked in a previous video, I had bought an item at a liquidation clearance store at a really, really low price. And I did a review of it, and I had somebody come back in the comments and ask me something that I hadn't even considered before they said it. And I think it's an appropriate question for this unit. They asked me, if you had paid full price for it, would you like it as much? And in this case, because this unit was sent to me free of charge to test it out. Now keep in mind, while they did send me this item free, there was no expectation of me giving them a positive review. And I hope that you all understand that if I'm telling you I like something, it's because I like it, not because somebody sent it to me for free. But I guess the question would be, if you hadn't gotten it for free, would you like it as much? And do you think it would do the job? Having learned the things that I learned in the process of trying this out, testing it, using it, doing everything that I needed to do to make this project happen, would I go out and spend that money given that it's time for me to replace that battery? The answer to that question is absolutely, without a doubt. Had I known what I have learned along this journey, I would spend the extra money to buy one of these to replace that lead acid deep cycle battery. I can't speak for how this thing's going to work down the line. I can say that there are a lot of people out there that are giving these things high marks, that are very impressed with this product. So a year from now, if somebody sees this video, ask me the question, do you still like that battery? But I would absolutely, on my honor, I would spend the extra money and I would buy this now that I know that it exists and now that I know that it works in this application. I'm not a fisherman. I don't have a boat and a trolling motor. I can't tell you how it's going to work in that environment. There's a lot of things that people use these things for that I just don't participate in. I don't have that kind of gear. So I can't really say this is going to be perfect for everybody. But if you've got a little camper like this, or if you've got a bigger camper, I think this will work for you. I think this will be what you need. I really wish that I had the opportunity to get a second one from them so that I could set them up in parallel and double my power, but the ability to add more power just in case you have a rainy day or cloudy days or whatever, and the sun's not there to charge that thing back up, it'd be nice to be able to double that power. But I think that what I've got here, this is going to be a lot of fun testing it down the line. That's enough of me babbling about this thing. I'm going to close this one out. Thank you to the folks at Goldenmate for sending this thing over to me. It's been a pleasure testing this piece of equipment. They've given me a discount code that I'm going to drop down in the description box below so that you can go check it out and see what it costs with my discount and see if this is going to meet your needs. But I'm going to wrap this one up, and until the next one, prepare for the world that you live in, not the one you wish existed. We'll see you around.